Hi, it's Mitch from PickDawgz.com, and it's Sunday, July the 7th, 2024. We're going live with our first 5 innings picks. I almost said the 7 free picks in 5 minutes. Of course, we already did that video today, but we're going live. We're doing our first 5 innings. It went live the other day doing it, and it's kind of efficient on these days where, especially with early starts like this, and I don't have a ton of time in the morning to put that whole edited video together. Of course, we also cover not just the first 5 innings of every single Major League Baseball game on the board. We also do Today in Sports History. And today in sports history, on July 7th, 1948, Satchel Paige was signed by the Cleveland Indians. Of course, this was the first time that he ever played in the actual major leagues, one of the greatest pitchers of all time. It was seen as a surprise for a lot of reasons, but of course, hey, it's nice to see that Satchel Paige, even though he was well past his prime at that point, got a shot to play in the majors. Of course, we play in the majors every day, crushing the books here at PickDawgz.com and taking them down in a hurry and in big-time fashion. Of course, we got the best handicappers in the game, and let's get it started by crushing the books in the first 5 innings of all of today's action. For the first game on the board, we're going to go to Washington, where the Nationals are taking on the Cardinals. It was the Nationals jumping all over the Cards on Saturday and Lance Lynn, but today DJ Herz gets the ball for the Nationals, and it's Kyle Gibson on the mound for the Cardinals. If you've ever seen any of my videos, you know that I'm not a huge Kyle Gibson fan, but the thing is that, the Cardinals, when it comes to these back-to-back games like this, they don't lose back-to-back games all that often. While the Nationals certainly have played hard this season, but we saw it even yesterday. Even with those big leads, they were still giving up big-time hits and big-time runs. Meanwhile, the Nationals just 3-8 straight up in their last 11 games in the underdog role. Gibson's got a 3.88 ERA on the season, but don't let that fool you. He's 4.50 over his last 3 starts, while Herz 4.67 ERA for the season, 5.68 over his last 3 starts. The Cardinals are still crushing the baseball. The Nationals are hitting it very well as well. The Cardinals at 246 versus righties. But of course, Herz is a lefty, and the Cards hit lefties at 265. Meanwhile, the Nationals hitting righties at 242 over their last 10 games. Gotta say, I gotta give the edge to the Cardinals in this one. Even though I'm not a big Gibson fan, I think it might be the lesser of 2 evils in a game that's probably going to go over the total. For our next game, we head to Atlanta, where the Braves are taking on the Phillies. Hopefully you got a chance to watch our regular live show yesterday, as I made a appearance. I haven't been on a lot of these morning live shows recently. It's even our weekday show that, was basically my show. Just had a lot of other things going on. You're going to see in a couple weeks our new website over at PickDawgz.com and at SportsChatPlace.com. And you're going to understand why I've been so busy. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. You don't see a lot of people that own the websites on these videos on the channel. I think I'm the only one that owns one this size or even close to it. Most of the people you see that have videos out there, much smaller operations. But anyways, doesn't really matter. Let's oh man, we got jerk on the comments. Of course, those happen, but let's get to our next game here with the Braves taking on the Phillies. If you watched the live show yesterday, you would have seen that I gave out the Braves on the reverse run line there against Suarez. And I think that, the Braves were just fired up after allowing 15 hits and making 3 errors on Friday night and still being very much in that game. I think when we look at this one in particular, we've got Lopez on the mound now for the Braves. He's been very good, but Mercado has been pretty good for the Phillies as well in his one start that we did see. Got to excuse me for a second. I'm going to try and see if I can get to the comments so we can make sure that we don't have any more spammers like Randy Bishop coming on there. No, we did get him. But anyways, we look at Lopez's numbers, 1.83 ERA for the season and 2.51 over his last 3 starts, while we saw Mercado 1.50 ERA, 1.80 over his last 3. The thing is, he went 6 innings, allowed 2 hits. He was spectacular. I think this is going to be a little bit of a tougher game, but I think the value here might be on the Phillies. I think the Braves might get this one late, but I'm going to take the Phillies in the first 5. We go to our next game, and it is the Pirates and the Mets. I got duped on this one yesterday. I thought the Pirates certainly had enough to beat up on the Mets, but they didn't have it yesterday. They give it another shot today with Luis Ortiz on the mound up against Sean Manaea. Manaea's pitched pretty well recently, 3.67 ERA on the year, but a 2.04 ERA over his last 3 starts, while Ortiz checks in with a 3.27 ERA, and he's got a 1.50 ERA over his last 3 starts. We look at the way that these teams are hitting the baseball, and it's the Pirates against lefties hitting 262 over their last 10 games, while the Mets versus right-handed pitching hitting a paltry 192. All the value here is on the Pirates. This is an easy one. We'll take the Pirates in the first 5. For our next one, we go to Cleveland, where the Guardians are taking on the Giants. Carlos Carrasco on the mound for the Guardians, while Birdsong gets the ball here for the Giants. Birdsong hasn't pitched all that much this season. He hasn't been horrible. I think his numbers a little bit overstated to the downside. 4.66 ERA. Meanwhile, Carrasco, 5.21 ERA on the season, but 3.18 over his last 3 starts. The Giants really have played well against the Guardians in recent years. 16-5 the last 21 times these teams have met. We look at the way these teams are hitting right-handed pitching, and neither of them are really hitting righties all that strong. 228 for the Guardians and 219 for the Giants. That's over the last 10 games. But you look for the season, and I think that the Giants certainly have, been streaky good and streaky bad. And I just think facing Carrasco here, I think the Giants find a way. You guys know I always take the Giants, and I'm going to take them here. For our next game, we head to Miami, where the Marlins are taking on the White Sox. This one's pretty interesting because, the Marlins have Edward Cabrera making his return to the bump for this game. And we have Cannon on the mound for the White Sox, who has been hit pretty hard, so far this season. Cannon's got a 4.62 ERA on the year, 4.70 over his last 3 starts. And we know when Cabrera is on his game, he is as good as anyone. I think, when we look at, the Marlins pitching staff, they have been really, really banged up. And because of, Cabrera being named a little bit late here, I'm kind of having to dig a little bit deeper than I normally do to find his numbers. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. But we'll find him, and we always do. And, just to get exactly where he's been when we've seen him this season. But, the Marlins have both these teams started terribly, right? These are like my 2 favorite teams as a fan. And Cabrera's got a 7.17 ERA, allowing 20 hits over 21 1/3 innings of work. But we haven't seen him pitch since May, and he was getting banged up pretty good. I don't think he goes that deep into this game, but, we are just talking about the first 5 innings here. I like the way the White Sox are swinging the bats recently. I'll take the White Sox in the first 5 of this game. For our next game, we go to Cincinnati, where the Reds are taking on the Tigers. This is another one of these interesting games that we've seen all weekend long in most of these series. These have been some of the tougher series that we've seen the entire season. And I tell you, I've been doing okay with my baseball picks, but I got to say, these weekend series of this weekend, I feel lucky to be grinding out a profit here, because these have been just really, really tough to call. Because we look at a game like this, and Graham Ashcraft has not been very good. 5.45 over his last, for the season, his ERA is 8.36 over his last 3 starts, while Skubal, 2.45 for the season, 3.71 over his last 3 starts. We look at the way that these teams are hitting the baseball, and the Tigers, absolutely hideous against right-handed pitching. 191 over their last 10 games, while the Reds, 224 versus lefties. So you have the Reds facing, though, a better left-handed pitcher than the Tigers are facing right-handed pitcher, but the Reds hit righties better than the Tigers are hitting lefties. I got to say, I just think in a place like Cincinnati, which is a hitter's park where the ball carries, I think the Reds, the way they swing the bats, I think they take a couple out on Scoob, will take it deep. I'll take the Reds in the first 5 of this game. For our next game, we're going to go to Minnesota where the Twins are taking on the Astros. In yesterday's game, there was an announcement late before the game. If you watched our regular live show, we caught it there and were able to give our picks out after the announcement had been made. And that was that Jose Altuve was not playing in the game. Of course, he bats .308. He's their leadoff hitter. He's their best hitter for average. He's also kind of the straw that stirs the drink there for the Houston Astros. So certainly, and I agree with you. I think all common sense says Scooble, right? But my gut says Reds too. So I'm with you on that one. But that's my feelings exactly. If you guys have comments or questions, feel free to blast them out. This is my second time doing the first 5 inning show live. Probably will be mixing it in with the recorded version. I prefer the recorded version, but I like doing it live too because I can answer all your guys' questions. We got Simeon Woods Richardson going here for the Twins in this one. Spencer Arrighetti on the mound for the Astros. And Arrighetti has not been at his best. 6.13 ERA on the season, 5.28 over his last 3 starts. So he is improving, but that doesn't mean much because he look at where he's coming from. And then when you look at Simeon Woods Richardson, here's a guy that doesn't go deep into games anyway. And he's got a 3.52 ERA on the season, 4.24 over his last 3 starts. The Astros have been murder incorporated on the road, 6-2 in their last 8, 13-3 in their last 16 games overall. But you got the Twins who are 9-4 in their last 13 at home, 35-17 in their last 52 games in the favorite role. To me, while I don't like to lean on starting pitching too much, I think that the Twins have an edge here with Woods Richardson over Arrighetti. The Twins also over the last 10 games hitting .309 as a team versus .276 for the Astros. You dial it in versus right-handed pitching, and the Twins are hitting .307 versus righties over their last 10 games to .275 for the Astros. I like the way both these teams are playing. Probably a game I'll steer clear of because it's one of these games probably decided after the first 5 innings. But for the first 5, I'll lean to the Minnesota Twins in the first 5 of that one. For our next game, we go to Chicago where the Cubs are taking on the Angels. I think that people are, in general, when I did the live show yesterday with the gang and, read the comments as they came across. And, of course, I read the YouTube comments as well. I think people are underestimating just how bad the Chicago Cubs are and just how horrible of a manager Craig Counsell is. The Cubs are terrible. When they lose, they get like 2 to 3 hits in the entire game, and we've seen it time and time again. It's not just like a one-off situation. Tyler Anderson looked like Koufax on Saturday, and we saw last weekend them get 2 hit, twice. But, we look today, Hayden Wesneski on the mound for the Cubs, not a guy that generally goes deep into games, but they have stretched him out a couple of times. 4.14 ERA on the season, but that balloons to a 6.60 over his last 3 starts. Meanwhile, Jose Soriano, 3.77 ERA for the season, 3.50 over his last 3 starts. We look at the way these teams are hitting right-handed pitching, and over the last 10 games, the Angels hitting righties at .264 and the Cubs at just .226. While the Angels have not been a great road team, the Cubs have been a lousy team overall, and while they've played great in interleague home games, it sure didn't look like it on Saturday. The Cubs are 8-1 in their last 9 interleague home games, but I'll tell you, not the way that they're hitting the baseball. I'm going to take the Angels in the first 5 of this game. For our next game, we go to Texas, where the Rangers are taking on the Rays. Nate Eovaldi on the bump for the Rangers, and it is Littell on the mound for the Rays. A lot of times you see Littell and just say, oh, man, good chance to fade him. But actually, over his last 3 starts, he's dialed it in to a 2.40 ERA, down from just 3.94 for the season. So he has respectable numbers there. Meanwhile, on the other side, Eovaldi, 3.15 ERA for the season, 3.15 over his last 3 starts. He has been the model of consistency. The Rangers have absolutely owned the Rays, winning 9 of the last 10 meetings of these two teams, and the Rangers are 7-2 straight up in their last 9 at home. But we look at the way the Rays are hitting right-handed pitching, just 198 over their last 10 games, but 315 versus lefties. So overall as a team, even though they're hitting 198 versus righties over the last 5 games, 230 as a team, and so they faced quite a few lefties. Meanwhile, the Rangers, 259 now over their last 10 games versus right-handed pitching, and 269 versus lefties. They are picking up the bats considerably. But with all that being said, to me, this is one of those games where everything says Texas, Texas, Texas. It looks almost too easy. When it's too easy, generally it isn't. I'm going to take the Rays for the first 5 of this game. For our next game, we head to Colorado where the Rockies are taking on the Royals. Those of you that buy my premium picks, which is certainly optional, I don't say you have to, should, or any of those things. They're there if you want them. My play of the day yesterday was the Colorado Rockies against the Kansas City Royals in a fade with Seth Lugo with his .73 ERA over his last 3 starts on the mound for the Royals. It really didn't come down to, Lugo not pitching well. It came down to the Royals not hitting the baseball, and we have seen this a lot from this team recently. The Royals have been on a major skid and losing with Ragans and Lugo in the last 2 games. Today they go with Singer, 3.05 ERA, 1.56 over his last 3 starts, so he's been very good. But even with that 1.56 ERA, the Royals are just 1-2 in those games. That's how bad they've been hitting the baseball. Meanwhile, the Rockies go with a first-time starter, Tanner Gordon. And, of course, the Rockies 7-1 in their last 8 interleague home games. And the Royals, like I said, Skid City. While it says the Royals are hitting .265 versus righties over the last 10 games and the Rockies at .216, when we're watching the games and watching these teams, up close all weekend long, it's looked like anything but. The Royals haven't won a road game in their last 5. I don't think they win the first 5 innings here either. I'm going to take the Rockies in the first 5 of this game. For our next game, we go to Oakland where the A's are taking on the Orioles. The Orioles were absolutely undressed on Saturday by the A's in a game that I couldn't have been more wrong. I didn't have a premium pick on it. Thankfully, the odds makers had the thing into unbettable numbers, or else I might have, and sometimes they work for you, sometimes they work against you, but man, having your own strategy and saying, I'm not going to bet anything at these kind of prices, which is really the best strategy, kept me off of a loser yesterday with the Orioles. When we look at this one, though, it is Grayson Rodriguez on the mound for the Orioles. It is Mitch Spence on the mound for the A's. And for me, I think that Spence is a guy that, is not bad, but he's not very good. He doesn't get the run support that a Rodriguez gets. But to me, I think Rodriguez is a good pitcher, but he certainly is vulnerable and susceptible and does get hit, especially early in games. The thing is, it wasn't just the starting pitching and bullpen that screwed him, Mike. It was pretty much everything that screwed them yesterday. They came out, it was over before it started in that game. The A's just kept scoring and scoring and scoring. The Orioles simply had no answers. And while the A's don't get to carry over any of those runs today, and the Orioles certainly, need to put that in the rearview mirror, it was a really bad loss in the grand scheme of things. The A's are just 3-14 in their last 17 games following a win, while the Orioles are still 7-3 in their last 10 games. But look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball, and the A's quietly hitting pretty decently, 244 as a team over their last 10 games, but just 230 versus right-handed pitching, while the Orioles are at 268. To me, I like Grayson Rodriguez, but the problem is that he's not like a shutout type pitcher. He's more of a 2-3 runs allowed type guy, and I think the A's peck away at him again. I'm going to take the A's in the first 5 of this game. I don't know who actually wins it, but I'll take the A's for the first 5. In the next game, we go to San Diego where the Padres are taking on the D-backs. The Padres' streak of overs versus National League teams at home is alive and well after we saw 12 runs hit the board on Saturday's game to take that streak to 12 games in a row in San Diego versus National League teams have gone over the total. In this one, Dylan Cease on the mound for the Padres. He's got a 4.24 ERA, 5.87 over his last 3 starts, looking very Cease-like this season. Meanwhile, Nelson comes in with a 5.42 ERA on the season, 4.86 over his last 3 starts. So while Nelson is improving on his numbers, he still stinks. But anyways, we look at the way these teams are hitting the baseball, and the D-backs hitting at 262 versus righties. The Padres 273 versus righties. I'll tell you where I'm going with this one. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We'll go with the over in the Padres D-backs, and that'll be our pick for this game. For our next game, we go to Seattle where the Mariners are taking on the Blue Jays. The Mariners' bats on Saturday were just absolutely quiet. I mean, for most of the game, they couldn't hit a ball out of the infield. They scored some runs in the 9th inning to kind of dress it up against that hideous Toronto bullpen. But at the same time, their bats were just absolutely embarrassing. While the Blue Jays aren't hitting righties well this season, just 203 over their last 10 games, the Mariners aren't hitting righties or lefties. 182 versus righties and 194 versus lefties. George Kirby is on the bump here for the Mariners. I believe he's one of the best young pitchers in baseball. 3.32 ERA for the season, 2.33 over his last 3 starts. Meanwhile, for the Blue Jays, it's Barrios, 3.63 ERA, 6.35 over his last 3 starts in a regression mode. Now, the thing that we need to take into account here is that Julio Rodriguez, really the only threat in that entire Mariners lineup, left the game early yesterday. So, he left after the first inning of the game. He has a quad injury. Do the Mariners try and rush him back and play him today with Monday off? Or do they make it like he has yesterday, today, and tomorrow off, and he really gets to get well? Because he is their top player. He's all they got when it comes to offense. I think they sit him, and I'll tell you what, I think the Mariners are in trouble here. I think they hear footsteps. The Astros, even losing yesterday, I still think they're going to pass the Mariners sometime very, very soon. And I'll tell you what, I'll take the Blue Jays in the first 5 of this game. I just like the way that they swung the bats yesterday. We go to our next game, and it's the Dodgers taking on the Brewers. It is Dallas Keuchel on the mound for the Brewers, and the Dodgers have yet to name a starter in this game. Yesterday I said if the Brewers don't beat the Dodgers yesterday with Freddie Peralta up against James Paxton, they're never going to beat him. So I guess what the case may be in this particular one, they're never going to beat him. Dallas Keuchel, not a guy that generally I like. And when I did my regular video, I kind of thought that, well, maybe, Keuchel, what we saw last time, his last 2 outings is he hasn't pitched that well, but the Brewers' bats have really, really supported him. I'm kind of going the other direction in this one, especially after what we saw last night and Peralta not being able to get it done against the Dodgers. I'm going to have to go with the Dodgers in the first 5 of this one. For our final game on the card, we go to the game between the Yankees against the Red Sox. Yesterday when I was looking at the game initially, I was like everybody else. I was thinking, wow, Red Sox have a really good chance here. I did the live show, and Jay Briggs actually talked me off of the Red Sox, put me on the Yankees, and before you knew it, when I was placing my bet, which I did live on the show, I took the Yankees minus 3.5 runs in that thing. That's how confident Jay was that it was going to be a blowout. And said, you know what? I've made a lot of money with Jay since we brought him on to PickDawgz. Why not? So we did, and we cashed big. Once again, we see the Red Sox as a very public dog in this one, as Luis Gil has really struggled over his last 3 games with his 3.41 ERA for the season ballooning to 14.90, while Cutter Crawford's 3.42 ERA for the season is down to 2.63. 2.63 over his last 3 starts. Meanwhile, the Red Sox have dominated the Yankees, going 11-5 in the last 16 meetings, but they're only 18-38 in the last 56 in the Bronx. We look at the way these teams are hitting right-handed pitching, and they're both hitting it pretty well. 263 for the Red Sox and 248 for the Yankees. But overall as a team, the Red Sox are only hitting 230 over their last 10 games, while the Yankees are actually hitting at 242. I know Heel has had struggles recently, but I can't really buy into Cutter Crawford. I'm going to take the Yankees in the first 5 of this game. That covers all 15 games. Of course, we do this every single day, normally in video form. I'm trying to look at your questions and comments while I'm speaking, and that's why I'm kind of stuttering here and kind of going back and forth. If you guys have questions and comments, by all means, that's a great way to get banned from our site. Anyways, if you're looking for my best bets, the games I'm betting today, as well as best bets from the world's best handicappers, we have those over at our website, PickDawgz.com. You just click on the Premium Picks tab. I also have a link in the description of this video that you can click on to check those out as well. If you use the discount code PICK, you'll get 15% off all of your purchases. You click on any handicapper's name, you'll see every pick that they've ever made. You can see all of our records in every different sport broken down, pretty much everything. We're 100% transparency. Of course, if you're looking for some cool PickDawgz merch, like the hat I'm wearing here, the shirt I'm wearing, and some of the other stuff that you see us have on, those cool zip-ups that we wear, and those Nike things, the Nike Dry Fit hoodies. We have all those. Just click on the merch tab at PickDawgz.com or click on the link in the description as well. I don't see any comments in there or questions, but it's not a new format, Matt. What it is it's just on days like today where we have earlier starts at 1 o'clock, I just want to get it out there. I'm also on the fence about coming on today's regular live show, which if I was doing this in the recorded format, which takes at least an hour to 2 hours to edit something like that, and that's like if I'm absolutely flying. We have WNBA. We do have WNBA videos as well as picks on the website. This particular video, and we also have our live show where there'll be WNBA picks. But this particular video is Major League Baseball first 5 innings. We'll be adding first halves as well. We had those during the NBA playoffs. We will have them again when the NFL preseason starts in really just a few weeks at this point. Of course, we're looking forward to our new releases of our PickDawgz and Sports Chat Place websites. I promise you, these will be the best sports betting websites you've ever seen. I've put in a lot, probably more money I've spent on these website builds than all my other website builds combined. And while you see Sports Chat Place and PickDawgz, we also have many other websites, and we're going to incorporate some of that material in these as well. But anyways, we'll talk about those more when they're out there. I hate when people say, oh, you'll see it, you'll see it, you'll see it. So I'm actually becoming one of them because I'm so excited about it. But anyways, you guys will see it when it's released. And of course, you'll see me tomorrow when I give out more picks in the first 5 innings. We got a small card tomorrow, but check us all out. We got our regular live show coming up at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jay Briggs hosts our weekend show. We have a slew of cappers on. I'm not sure if I'm going to be on or not. And then, of course, all of our free pick videos that we have here at PickDawgz. We also have free picks at the website. We have betting tools at the website. We have betting tools at sportschatplace.com. Those will all be moving to PickDawgz. And, we also have our premium picks if that's something that you're interested in. This is Mitch. Thanks for joining me. Have an awesome day, man. I love all you guys. I appreciate everybody that tunes in every single day. Whether you ever buy something or you never buy something, we don't care. We just want you to win money and smash the books as part of our PickDawgz family. Let's make it a winning day. Let's crush them.